Welcome everyone to the fourth in our series of Membership Busters. Tonight we have a very exciting meeting planned for you. Sithari from New Horizons Toastmasters is going to talk about making virtual meetings fun with games. Not sure exactly what kind of games we're going to be seeing, but I bet this is going to be a lot of fun. New Horizons was the winner of the Club WOW of the Year for 2020-2021. Sithari, thank you so much for being here this evening. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Michael, for that introduction. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters, for being here tonight. I know we're all busy. We have busy schedules, and I appreciate you spending time tonight to help, hopefully, further more fun with your clubs. I have a small presentation, slideshow presentation, so I'm going to share my screen. All right. So, as I mentioned, or as it was mentioned, my club, New Horizons, won Club WOW of the Year in 2021, and I was part of implementing the Club WOW of the Year that we won, as well as a few others that we won for Club WOW of the Month. For those of the ones that we won, there were a few challenges that we faced implementing them, and there were a lot of other resources that I learned as we faced those challenges, and I'm going to share some of that with everyone here tonight. I told my club that through these challenges, I felt like the Wizard of Oz with the curtain kind of pulled back. And they, hopefully, if any of them watch this either tonight or later on, they don't realize that I'm not some innate creative genius. And I'm a regular person. That will make me feel really sad. Hopefully they stay away from all of this video. But for everyone else, I will be discussing the challenges I faced, how I came up with these ideas, and hopefully everyone will gain something from this that they can take back with their own clubs. My club is a hybrid club, and therefore I'm going to be discussing some fun, creative ideas that can work in both a virtual and hybrid setting. I want to discuss first the ideas that worked in both the Club WOW, all of the Club WOW ideas. I want to cover that first. So how I came up with those ideas, I'm the current president of New Horizons Toastmasters. However, last year I was the secretary. In addition to my role of keeping records, I had been assigned the role of event planner. Obviously, due to COVID, there was a big restriction on outside events. Therefore, I decided to turn each meeting or different meetings into events. The Club WOW contest gave us the opportunity to explore that more. When I mentioned the Club WOW contest, most of the members became very excited with this. They were incredibly excited when we won our first Club WOW of the Month, and they were more motivated to participate in other Club WOWs of the Month. We ended up winning 4, as I mentioned previously, and eventually Club WOW of the Year. Before I get into the different Club WOWs that we won, does anyone want to share what they think makes a fun meeting?
I think that what makes a meeting fun is when all of the people who are in the meeting participate. When they don't treat it as, I'm just going to sit back and let it wash over me, but they do go ahead and participate, whether they are in the room or whether they are virtual.
Okay, participation.
Right.
Anyone else?
I was just going to add to that, whenever I see or hear a lot of chat or just extra talking among members, that's a good sign for me. So when I see that, so more engagement, more talking.
Engagement. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's when there's a fun theme and the members get involved in that. And you'll see, since we're virtual many times, you'll see folks come in with wearing different hats or they decorate their screen. So I think it's being engaged in the theme of the meeting.
Okay, engagement in the theme. All right, those are all excellent ideas. And yes, I agree with all of them. Engagement, participation, and yes, of course, the theme are important concepts. I'm going to start off with my first Club WOW submission that won. It was Seinfeld related. When I was searching for ideas, I wasn't sure where to look. We had recently moved from meeting in person to meeting online. If you recall back in early 2020, when we were searching for Zoom ideas, or you would look for Zoom ideas, many people didn't even know what Zoom was. Therefore, whatever articles they were putting online or suggestions were very limited. A lot of the ideas I found when I searched for fun Zoom ideas or fun virtual platform ideas were centered around karaoke or cooking together in groups. Those were not feasible, in my opinion, for a Toastmasters meeting. However, I do want to open that up to everyone. If you want to do a karaoke night or group cooking session, by all means, please record that and post it online. I would highly enjoy watching that. One of the ideas that I did find was a table read. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with a table read, it is where you read through a script for a television or a movie. A television show or a movie. We chose a specific episode of Seinfeld. It was the parking garage episode. We thought this would work really well because it takes place in one specific location. Therefore, the members could choose a parking garage background and they would feed off of each other's acting. It was a comedy script. Therefore, they had the extra challenge of using humor with their timing. And they would have to use vocal variety to imitate the characters. If anyone is interested in doing this, there are free scripts for many different TV shows online. All you have to do is search the television show, then the episode, and then script. For example, The Office, Friends, Seinfeld, even, and those are comedies, obviously, but you could do dramas as well. They're all available online. Everyone could pull them up on their computer or their tablet, their phone. And then, of course, if you're meeting in person and you actually wanted a physical script, you could print that out as well. All of the ideas that I'm going to discuss with you tonight, at the end, I will have resources as well that I will go over. The next idea that we came up with was not a Netflix TV show, but it was a murder mystery. I came up with the murder mystery idea because I was just very much into murder mysteries. I remember playing Clue as a child, reading murder mystery books, watching murder mystery TV shows. I thought it would be a really fun idea to implement as a table topics. However, I remember once we started going virtual, I did not know if I could actually pull that off because of the constraints and the limits of a virtual platform. Then I spent some time Googling murder mysteries and on Google different questions that could be asked. Finally, I came up with an idea that I thought might possibly work. I assigned 3 different roles, the major roles, prior to table topics. I had the detective, the victim, and the killer. Then I assigned the secondary roles that were mainly to throw off the detective. I told everyone to turn off their cameras. Eventually, a gunshot noise came off of my computer. Then there was screaming from the eyewitness. Finally, I told everyone to turn their cameras back on, except the victim, who had their camera off the entire time. Then the detective began their questioning, starting with the eyewitness who saw everything. Then they moved on to the different suspects. Once the investigation was narrowed, there were 2 suspects that were further investigated until the detective came to the final conclusion. Then the victim turned the camera back on. With this murder mystery, there are different characters that are portraying different emotions, from sad to angry to scared to confused. the previous suspects that are interviewed play off of the other suspects and their interviews. They also incorporate evidence from whatever the eyewitness said. For example, if the eyewitness said that they were outside of a Starbucks, then the suspects would mention what time they were in the Starbucks, what order they asked for while they were in the Starbucks. If the eyewitness said they were in a hardware store, then the different suspects would mention what tools they were buying while they were in the hardware store. The eyewitness basically sets up the scene for all of the other suspects. And the killer would be the most suspicious of all of them, so that they could narrow down the investigation for the detective. If anyone is interested in doing this, I would also like to warn to mention to everyone else in the club that they are acting for this short amount of time, and to let the relatives and family members know that if they scream or if there are any noises coming out, that this is purely just acting. We had the eyewitness's husband come in and freak out because she happened to scream and he thought something was happening to her. While in the moment it was funny and and it was a topic of conversation throughout the rest of the meeting, it did take time away from the meeting and did cause us to get late in our meeting time. Therefore, you don't want anyone actually panicking and wondering what's happening to their loved one while they're screaming during the meeting. I would warn about that if you choose to implement this. The next thing that we did that won Club Wow of the Month was a talent show. I came up with this from watching a talent show. I thought this would be a fun idea. However, this was one of the hardest ones we had to implement for two major reasons. One, people can be shy and they might be unaware of the talents they have. Because of this, it took me to the last minute to actually organize this. I ended up having to volunteer them what roles they would be playing during table topics and eventually the speech. We had one person do a rap during table topics, one person read a poem, and finally one person tell jokes. Then for the speech, I thought this was one of the most interesting speeches we've ever had for our talent show portion. They were giving advice to someone who was dealing with all different kinds of emotions during COVID. So for instance, someone who's angry, someone who's sad, someone who's frustrated, they were telling them how to cope with their different emotions. And they were playing both the role of the person giving the advice and the person receiving the advice. I thought it was a very good job for a talent show speech. I think this can still be a great option. However, you know your members best. You know what they're comfortable with. You know if they would be comfortable performing and doing something outside the box. Therefore, if you have a large number of members who would be comfortable with that, then that's a great option. Finally, this is our last Club Wow that we won. This was the one that we won Club Wow of the Year with. It was a fairy tale network. However, I came up with this from watching Shark Tank. I have watched, I believe, every episode of Shark Tank. I'm a business owner and I enjoy watching businesses pitch ideas to investors. I feel like I've probably learned a few things by now. It's an incredible show. I highly recommend it. However, I also think many different forces can lead you to interesting ideas. I thought we could do something similar, except put a spin on it. That's how we came up with the fairy tale concept. There would be a fictional fairy tale network that was looking for new ideas for their upcoming season. The members had to pitch ideas, and some of the ideas they came up with included people who were competing in different tasks to become one of Santa's elves or believe. The three bears chasing around their house, doing extreme tasks to find Goldilocks, or the hunt for Goldie, transforming lives from rags to riches, called the fairy tale life. And finally, Wile E. Coyote does extreme stunts to advance in a reality show called Wile E. Finds Success, one of my favorite pitches. The best pitch won a run of 13 episodes. You could have fun with this by having them compete against each other in answering questions. Of course, the costume choices for this are endless. Some questions you could ask them include, how would you market your show? What would you do to increase your audience if you got a second season? How does your idea differ from our current lineup? Those were the main winning ideas that we had. I'm now going to discuss other ideas that we submitted for Club WOW and just in general, what I think are some other creative, fun ideas. One of the key components to a creative meeting is enthusiasm. I would always ask the members their opinions about an idea before I would implement it. For example, I really wanted to do a game show themed idea. I was watching this game show called 25 Words or Less. As you can see on the screen, there's the host and then the two celebrities. If you've never seen the show, they are bidding to see who can get their contestants, their regular people, to guess the words on the left side of the screen in the fewest number of words. I thought we could do something similar and I pitched it to them. However, they were highly against this. They did not want to do this. I, of course, still wanted to do that game show idea. I came back to them with, whose line is it anyway? Now, they loved this idea. It was one of our most successful and challenging themes. It's a sketch comedy show where I pulled 3 themes from Whose Line Is It Anyway? One of them was a camping skit where they spoke in question form. For example, I tell them they're out in the woods. They can do whatever they want with that. They could encounter a bear. They could have difficulty setting up their camping grounds. It's up to them. However, the challenge is they can only talk to each other using questions. The next skit that I came up with, again, with Whose Line, is that they're at a restaurant and they're encountering some kind of issue. Maybe they're celebrating a birthday, maybe they're having problems with the maitre d'. It's up to, again, it's all up to them. However, they can only speak to each other in alphabetical order. For example, one person's sentence has to start with A, the next one B, back and forth until they finish the alphabet and someone ends with Z. The third skit we did was limited by number of words. I had them in the Wild Wild West. They were encountering a fight and they were describing the fight to each other. One person could only speak in 3 words sentences, the other one 4-word sentences, and the last person 5-word sentences. Again, the constraints of this are that they can have a conversation, however, they can only speak in a small number of words each time. Now, these are actual skits that are performed by professional actors on a TV show, and they did freak out when I mentioned this to them. However, they did rise to the challenge when I mentioned this. Every single time we've done this, I believe we've done this 3 times now, they have improved every single time. I watch them at first struggle to keep letters of the alphabet in their head as they go along, to watching them get better and better at speaking in 3-word sentences. I enjoy watching them take my crazy ideas and run with them. And so I'm very proud of my club. Another time that I had an idea which morphed into something else was from watching the news more often. I thought we could do a news segment theme. This came to me as doing an interview with sports reporters, with entertainment reporters, weather reporters. They could just go out in the field and talk to people. This ended up turning into what you see on your screen, an alien encounter. I thought this actually turned out to be a really, really fun meeting. The alien encounter happened the prior night with half the members saying they didn't see anything, and the other half saying absolutely they saw something. And they were trying to convince the first half that they did see something. This was similar to a debate with our alien making an appearance at the end of the meeting. Both of these examples are reasons why it's important to get member input before you have your creative meeting, before you have your fun meeting. You want to make sure that the whole club is going to have fun with this. And sometimes their ideas are going to enhance what you already have planned. Some of the more common fun ideas include holiday and dress up meetings. This isn't a new idea, but it's tried and true. I think there are a whole wide variety of themed dress up meetings, from Christmas to Thanksgiving to Halloween, but there are also other holidays where we don't traditionally dress up, and we could probably turn those into fun dress up meetings as well. We have played Jeopardy several times by popular demand. The fun thing about Jeopardy is that the theme possibilities are endless. You could do a Toastmasters themed, a specific club theme, or current events. The members tend to get more excited based on the clues and the point system. Specifically for those who are doing hybrid meetings, it's a great way to do a theme that makes the meeting more fun by doing it in person. I saw an article of a Toastmasters club that had a prom theme at their decorated meeting place with everyone wearing formal attire. They passed out awards at the end of the meeting for most likely to succeed and class clown. I thought that was really fun. Each member had gave a thank you speech for their award, and they lastly they awarded a prom king and a prom queen. Reverse meetings. If you haven't done a reverse meeting yet, I highly suggest those. Those can be very entertaining, especially, but they can be tricky if you have a lot of new members. During a reverse meeting, you just run your basic agenda backwards. It's kind of like a weird Mad Hatter theme party. I think it's kind of interesting to watch the general evaluators and the functionary roles mention everything that happened prior to, and everything run in reverse, mentioning the specific time periods for timers reports, mentioning who said the word of the day and who didn't, and watching that have to be incorporated later on in the meeting. Joint meetings. If you haven't done a joint meeting lately, that might be an excellent idea for a fun meeting. I think one of the biggest challenges is picking a date for a joint meeting. Both clubs obviously have a lot on their schedule, but picking the date is half the battle. You need to consider what time each club meets. It's obviously preferable if they meet around the same time of day. For example, 2 morning clubs or 2 evening clubs. I'm not saying it can't work between a morning and an evening club. It's just probably going to be more challenging. With joint meetings, you get the advantage of having the guest club performing functionary roles and wanting to give speeches. You want one club to host the first meeting and the other club to host the second. It makes it a more relaxing meeting for the host club, and having guest speakers can be very engaging for the audience. Mock trial. I thought of mock trial as an interesting theme for a meeting. I came up with this idea because I was in my high school mock trial team. A mock trial is a fake court case where you have a prosecution, defense, and witnesses for both sides. This was one of my submissions that didn't win, but I still think it's a fun idea. I think all of the submissions, whether they won or not, were fun, creative ideas. The themes for mock trial are unlimited. Previously, my club has done Pinocchio versus the state of Italy, in which Pinocchio was basically fighting to stay with his negligent father, Geppetto. That's the real story, if you haven't seen it. Some witnesses included the Blue Fairy and Jiminy Cricket. There was another case involving Goldilocks versus the 3 Bears. Pretty sure you know what happened in that one. The charges were against Goldilocks breaking and entering. Lastly, we have a case involving the 3 Little Pigs versus the Big Bad Wolf. The pigs claimed that the wolf broke into their homes and damaged them, and the wolf countersued for emotional damage and claimed that the houses were not structurally sound. He may have a point with that one, especially that straw one. So when I mentioned these ideas, there was instant laughter every time I mentioned the mock trial cases. And I think laughter is another important key to a fun meeting. Personal stories can make for fun meetings as well. For example, at the end of 2020, another one of our submissions, two of our members were expecting a baby together. We threw a baby shower themed Toastmasters meeting. This was emotional for all of the members. If a member has a celebratory event, you can turn that into a meeting theme. It also helps bring the members closer together. In the same vein of personal stories, if a member is a second or third generation Toastmaster, you could have them give a speech on their family's history with Toastmasters. If you have any members who previously belonged to an overseas club, ask them to speak on their experience. Not only will you learn more about your fellow members, you might learn about other clubs that you may want to implement in your own club. I did this myself by visiting an overseas club last year. My family is from Sri Lanka. I contacted my aunt to visit a club in Sri Lanka last year. I visited the Colombo Toastmasters Club over Zoom. I learned that they do a 30-second table topics round robin. I thought this is great and I want to implement this in my own club. However, not on a regular basis. It was tricky enough doing it that one time. You can try this with other clubs around the country or international clubs as well. Zoom has opened up so many opportunities for us. A common idea often used in Toastmasters is a round robin story where each member takes turns telling a part of a story. This could be made more challenging by asking members to bring their own prop and taking turns incorporating their prop and other people's props into their section of the story. This could be funny and impressive at the same time. If you Google creative Toastmasters ideas, creative topics ideas, creative speech ideas, you'll find that there isn't really that much out there. Believe me, I tried. A lot of the shared ideas out there are repetitive. If you see something that you've done before, see if there is a way to elevate it. Reduce the speaking time to a shorter amount. When you have members respond to quotes, have them take on a certain role while doing so. Challenge yourself to take it up a notch. In March, our club participates in Ostrich Festival. We just volunteered this past weekend. We volunteered for the Chandler Chamber of Commerce. This is an activity that the members look forward to every year. It was canceled the last 2 years due to COVID. So the members were really excited this year. It's not an idea for a traditional meeting. However, volunteering for the community can be an enjoyable experience. It can also help the members bond, which creates traditions for the club. I want to spend a few minutes talking about hybrid meetings. If your club is thinking about hybrid meetings or has yet to take the steps towards creating hybrid meetings, for whatever reason, I would highly encourage you to do so. Our club has been hybrid since October of 2021. While there have been challenges, the most noticeable reward is the enthusiasm of the members that radiates within the room, and that cannot be replicated through a computer screen. My final suggestion is to check the Club WOW link on AZ Toastmasters. All of the winning submissions, as well as other creative submissions, are listed. You could easily take one of those ideas and tweak it to fit into your own club. I did that myself last year. There was a submission that was decade themed. They took from the early 1900s to the late 1900s and had the members dress up and answer specific questions on food and music. I thought it was really creative. I ended up condensing it to the 1960s and 1990s, had them dress up, but had them answer more historical questions instead. The members loved it, had a great time. And when they asked me where I got the idea from, I told them it wasn't my idea. took an idea from, from Club Wow and I tweaked it a little bit. I'm now going to show you some of the resources that I used. Starting from the second, I'm going to get to the Reddit one in a second. That is the AZ Toastmasters website with going directly to Club Wow. The next one is the court case website with the mock trials. If you go to the second page, you can find all of the examples of court cases. The next two, the Lives in a Box and Seinfeld scripts, you can find all of the Friends episodes and all of the Seinfeld episodes. Obviously, I can't post every television show script on there, but I just wanted to give you a starting point if you wanted to do this for your own club. The one after that is an example of table topics. There are several examples of Jeopardy examples online. I just grabbed one if you wanted a starting point for an example of how to put clues together. At the bottom, the murder mystery examples. There, I believe there are 13 on there. If you go, they give you an example of how to create questions, how to create a script. And as I mentioned, there are 13 options on there if you wanted to go down that road. Going back to the Reddit on the very top, you don't have to create a Reddit login. If you just go to the Reddit, you can if you want to, but if you just go to the Reddit Toastmasters, there are threads on table topics, threads on speeches, threads on visiting clubs, both nationally and internationally. If you're interested in just getting ideas and of course, visiting other clubs, I would highly recommend checking out the Reddit Toastmasters thread. My final suggestion, of course, is to check out all of those links. I hope that everyone learned at least some new ideas that you can take back to your clubs. I know that it's not always easy to come up with new ideas. The main point that I hope you took away from all of this is that you don't have to search constantly for new ideas. They are right in front of you. It might be in your favorite TV show, book, movie, mock trial team from high school. Maybe that's just me. You can take concepts that you've already used in your club and elevate them. If you want to take a risk, don't be afraid to try it. Most creative ideas come from people who took risks. I'm going to end my speech tonight by sharing a quote that I hope will inspire you to be more creative with your own ideas. It's by Bruce Garabrandt. Creativity doesn't wait for that perfect moment. It fashions its own perfect moments out of ordinary ones. Thank you. And with that, I will open it up to the question and answers.
Okay, thank you very much, Sithari. Do any of our guests have questions that they wish to ask Sithari?
Yes, Sitari. When you came up with a theme for your next meeting, how far in advance did you notify the members? Did you let them know at the beginning of the meeting, or did they have some time to prepare?
Oh, so when I would check in with them, I would check in probably about 6 weeks beforehand. That way, if they didn't like the idea, I would still have another couple of weeks to come up with something.
Okay, good to know.
I have a question. For your hybrid meeting, where are you currently meeting? Where's your physical in-person meeting for that hybrid?
So we have 2 locations, technically. So we're in the process of transitioning. We are meeting at 90 South Kyrene Road, which is the office meeting space of my office where I'm currently located. And we're in the process of transitioning to Cadence Living in Chandler. So they have allowed us to use a room in their new facility. So they just opened about 3 weeks ago.
Oh,
So
okay.
we just, we'll be meeting there starting at the end of this month. So next Tuesday will be our first meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Trying to do hybrid. Well, for us, we're still doing Zoom. And I know I talked to Nancy, I've talked to Mike about this. It's always interesting. I like to hear how other clubs are meeting either in hybrid, where are they meeting in person? It's just finding the location. For us down here, it's very difficult for us to find a place, but I'm going to look into that now that you mentioned about Cadence Living. So I'm down in Tucson, and I'll try to look around at some of our other facilities just to check them out, to see if they can let us use a room.
Yeah, I know in the past we met at the YMCA, we met at another senior living center. I forget the name, but we met at another senior living center. So I would suggest maybe checking the YMCA and senior living centers. They may be more open to it.
Okay. That's a great idea. Thank you.
So Sitari, how did you manage it in a hybrid meeting when you have these themes? How do you incorporate those that are coming in virtually versus those that are in person at your location?
So one of the things we did was initially when we had table topics first and then we had our speeches second, we noticed that it was causing us to our meetings to be delayed and run over our time limit. We then switched the format, so our speech was first, and we knew that table topics would come second. And when we switched the format that way, we knew that we would have enough time to get table topics in, and it wouldn't delay the meeting that way, because we knew that it would the meeting would end up on time and we wouldn't have any problems with the timing if we got the speech in first. So I think getting the speech done first in the meeting, if you aren't already doing that, that helps figure out how much time is remaining for table topics. And then as for hybrid, it kind of depends on what kind of things you're doing. For example, I had this one idea, I didn't mention it, but I had different scented things in canisters, and I had them smell the scent and then describe what that scent reminded them of, or like a memory that it reminded them of. So when I did that, we were all supposed to be in person. We weren't supposed to have anyone over Zoom, but we had a couple of people over Zoom. Then I quickly had to scratch that idea and come up with something completely different, because you can't have people over Zoom smelling things on canisters. So I have had to improvise sometimes when I've had ideas.
Well, thank you. That's good. That's good to know.
What are some of the suggestions that you can make for clubs that are moving from Zoom to the hybrid type of a meeting? What things should they be looking for?
One, definitely reach out to clubs who are already hybrid. They can help you figure out, as far as audio and things like that, what you might need, depending on the room, because the room might not have all of the things already, right? So reach out to a club. They could probably help you figure out what you might need in the room. Second, figure out logistically what the best meeting space would be, right? Because if you're not going back to your previous room, previous location, then you need to make sure that you pick a location that is best for all of your members, right? Then I would also say there's going to be technical issues the first meeting. There's always going to end up being some kind of audio technical issue. So you want to meet at least half an hour prior so that you can figure that stuff out, so that you don't start at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whenever the time is, and it's a 15-minute delay because you didn't think about the fact that there was going to be some kind of audio visual issue. So that very first meeting, make sure you meet at least half an hour prior so that you can figure that stuff out.
Got a question. One of the meetings that we have done, theme meetings, is a grab bag meeting. You think that is something that we could do with a hybrid type approach?
Yes, yes, we've done that before. What we do is we text the people who are on Zoom. We text them what the question is, or we text them whatever the clue is. So you can still do a lot of the stuff that you're doing in person in a hybrid format.
Do you feel that it's important to have a dedicated Zoom master for these, for hybrid meetings?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. It's definitely important. There will be some people who are having trouble logging in. There'll be guests who are having trouble logging in. It's very important that someone is there to help them log in.
When you're creating the links for your Zoom meetings, you create them with passwords or without? You have it so they have to, the host has let them into the meeting, or you just make it an open?
We have passwords just for security purposes, but if you want to make it easier, you could have it open. I guess it just depends on the location of your meeting. If you're doing hybrid, how secure is the location that you're meeting at?
Have you heard of any clubs doing hybrid meetings with the in-person portion being at somebody's house?
I haven't. The ones I know a few that are having it at Denny's. I know a lot of them that are having it at restaurants. I don't know of anyone that's having it at someone's house.
Yeah, a couple of my clubs, when they lost the meeting space, ended up just meeting at somebody's house for up to 6 months in one particular case. So that is an option for somebody who's going from hybrid to in person. If you haven't found someplace, you might want to look at if there's somebody who has a house with a large living room or a den or something like that they would like to offer to be able to do that. I think that would be something that would be quite nice.
So Sitari, you have meeting themes for each of your meetings, and is there a list so that the different Toastmasters take on the themes, or do you present the theme for each meeting?
So as far as who's in charge, it's a rotation of who wants to be in charge of the theme. As far as what was the second part of your question?
Oh, the part was, so are you presenting the theme for each meeting, or is it available? Do you have a list of themes for all your meetings, and then the various Toastmasters take them on and lead those meetings?
We don't technically have a list of the various themes. Whoever's in charge for that meeting decides the theme, and then it's announced in the agenda and they're aware of it for that day. As I mentioned previously, if there's a situation such as I had where I expected everyone to be there in person, but some people were on Zoom and then we couldn't do that one, I will immediately improv a table topics at that moment. But that's rare. It's rare that something like that happens. But usually we do stick to the agenda and what we have planned out. But if the mock trial thing that I mentioned, like those things, I have an idea of how many people are going to show up. If we don't have enough people to fill those roles, then I can't do that. If we don't have enough people to do a murder mystery, then I can't do that. So I have an idea ahead of time how many people are going to show up, and that way I can implement that.
How many members do you have in your club that attend meetings, Sitari?
About 15.
Good.
Do any of our guests have any other questions they want to ask Sitari?
No, I don't have any other questions. Just I wanted to say thank you. I'm glad I popped in. I'd like your resources. I will go check out a few things, and I will try to implement some of the things that I learned tonight. Like I said, the only challenge that I have, where our club has, is we're still meeting in Zoom, and everybody's tired of Zoom. They want to go, and we can't find a place. That's our challenge. But you give me an idea of checking out the senior living centers. So I know there's a couple around me, so I'm going to go check them out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Sitari. Great presentation. I have a question for you. Do you need an evaluation for one of your projects?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Sitari, I'll send you an email and then just send me which project you're working on. I'd be happy to provide an evaluation.
Okay.
Sitari, thank you so much for providing this wonderful presentation. I speak for everyone when I say we all had a blast.
Oh, thank you.
Lots of things that I would never have thought of that you brought up. And I thank you for coming on here and for presenting us with this. This completes the last of our 4 membership buster sessions. I'm happy that we could all be here. The sessions will be available on the District 3 YouTube channel. Look under Membership Busters. Thank you very much.